welcome everyone to episode number 22. Can you believe it's episode 22 of Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer? Kara Ulker and I created this show as a safe space where cancer survivors and cancer supporters come together to share their stories and connect, as well as find resources that provide healing, hope, and resilience. My name is Tim Sohn, a 15-year cancer survivor and host of Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer, co-host of the Tim and Jim Show, and a live stream show host and virtual event creator, producer, and coach. Thank you so much for joining us. Let us know where you're tuning in from around the world and what is your connection to cancer. Maybe you're a cancer survivor. Maybe you have a family member who is a survivor. Maybe a family member has passed, or maybe you have some other connection to cancer. We would love to know in the comments, what is your connection to cancer? Before we introduce our guest tonight, first of all, I want to thank everyone who has supported my campaign for Man and Woman of the Year through the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society and the Open Your Hearts and Wallets 24-hour fundraiser for blood cancers that happened on March 8th and 9th, just a few weeks ago. It feels like it was just a few days ago. But we are back at it again, and I'm going to share a video with you guys right now to tell you what that is all about. And we are live. Hello, everyone. I hope you had a wonderful day. This is a spontaneous live. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Tim Sohn. And it's great to be with you all. I just got out of a meeting, a Leukemia and Lymphoma Society meeting. Some of you know that we just had an incredible event on March 8th and 9th, part of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society Man and Woman of the Year philanthropic competition. We raised more than $6,000 thanks to so many of you who donated money and shared the event and did whatever you could. And so the breaking news that is just coming out of the meeting that we just held is that we are holding another event. It's not going to be 24 hours, but this time we are going to be holding a 12-hour Open Your Hearts and Wallets event on Friday, April 22nd from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'm so excited about this. If you're tuning in live or on the replay, let me know who you are. Let me know where you are. Let me know what you're eating or drinking right now, because I want to know. I want to know those things because I haven't done any of that in a while. But we are looking for your help. We're looking for your help in a few different ways. We are looking for, if you are a live streamer, and if you want to donate your time and you want to donate your heart, you want to donate your energy, we're looking for some people to live stream some time slots during the event. We'll provide the content, and you just need to show up on your channel. We'll provide the run of show. There might be some cancer survivors, or there might be some musicians or entertainers that will show up. We'll provide all the content, and you donate your time and your social media channels, and we'll provide all the information. So definitely reach out to me if you're interested in doing that. Appreciate anything that you could do to help. The second thing is, if you are a blood cancer survivor, or if you are a family member of a blood cancer survivor, or maybe somebody in your family is a family member has passed of a blood cancer, we're interested in interviewing you during a conversation during this 12-hour Open Your Hearts and Wallets event. So if that's the case, direct message me as well. We want to spread the word about cancer awareness during these 12 hours, just like we did during the 24-hour event in March, just a few weeks ago. Also, if you're a musician or an entertainer and you would be willing to volunteer your time and showcase your talents during our event, we would love to have you. So direct message me as well if that's the case as well. Or if you're an individual or a business and you'd want to donate a product or a service, maybe you're a coach, or maybe you have some kind of product, or you're an author or a photographer or something like that, and you would want to donate that, we could hold a raffle at the end of the event, and people who donate monetarily could be entered to win prizes at the end of the event. So that's really it, guys. I just wanted to show up. I just wanted to let you know that we're back at it again. We really want to provide this space again for cancer survivors and others to share their stories and perspectives on cancer. April 22nd, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Once again, if you're a live streamer, if you're a blood cancer survivor or a family member, or some other connection or perspective on cancer, if you're a musician or entertainer, or if you want to donate a product or service, reach out to me, and would love to have you involved in the event in some kind of way. Thank you so much for tuning in, whether you're live or on the replay. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you real soon. Bye, everyone. All right. Thanks for everyone for bearing with me. I really got to learn to talk tonight. I don't know. I think I have to switch back to coffee, guys. Let me know if I switched to coffee recently. Let me know if I switched to tea recently. Let me know if I should switch back to coffee, because my words aren't coming out tonight. Anyway, I'm really excited to have tonight's guest come on. Her name is Dianne Jackson. It's been a while since I've spoken to her. Well, I did just speak to her a few minutes ago before the show, so it hasn't been that long. So I'm going to bring Dianne Jackson on, and we're going to get the show started. Hello, Dianne.
Hey, Tim. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am well. So 2 shout outs first for you, Tim. First of all,
Whoa.
I know a couple of months ago you got some excellent news about being clear again, and I know how important that is. So yay, big news for you, Tim.
Thank you.
Secondly, for all the effort that you're doing just now, what your video was talking about, and being dedicated to raising funds. It's so important. I'm a huge walker, the End Breast Cancer Walk. I've raised over 90,000 with my team, and
oh my gosh,
people like us, we just need to keep doing what we can to find research and to find that cure. Ultimately would be the greatest thing. So thank you, Tim, for being dedicated.
That is amazing. First of all, thank you for the shout outs. And we need to talk. You raised $90,000, so I need to find out.
Over a couple of years, we have a team, and it's called the Healthy Hooters because of breast cancer. And it's a lovely little owl eyes, and it says Healthy Hooters. It's all very tasteful, of course. But,
right, of course, of course.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm delighted to have you on the show tonight.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a while since we spoke. Before a few minutes ago, it's been a while. So delighted to have you on the show tonight too. We were originally connected because of Peter Clark, I believe.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I love Peter Clark. I love his show. He's so amazing. He's such an advocate for everything good in the world.
Yeah, I love Peter Clark also.
Yeah.
I first found out about Peter Clark because through Brian Schulman, who's in the comments tonight.
Oh yeah, I've seen his name. Yes.
He had come on Brian Schulman's show, and then Peter Clark came on at the end of the show where Kara was sharing her story. He had messaged me during the show and said, could I come on your show? So he came on.
Oh, that's right, because of his wife.
Yeah, his wife.
Yes.
Was in Trinidad, I believe, with her dad. And he had just gotten off the phone with his spouse.
Yeah.
And we had a conversation after she shared her story. So love that Peter Clark. Definitely.
Big shout out to Peter Clark.
Yeah. Shout out to Peter Clark. Yes. Definitely shout out to Peter Clark. Yeah, speaking of shout outs, let's shout out some people who are here in the comments showing up for you and each other tonight. Diane, Emily Harmon is here. Hello, Emily. Great to have you here. Emily was a previous guest on the show. Welcome.
Yeah, I saw her.
Kathy is here. Kathy, I just met in San Diego. I went to Social Media Marketing World just a few weeks ago, Diane, and I met Kathy for the first time. So welcome, Kathy. Bob is here. He's in Orlando. He has chronic leukemia. Welcome, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Emily's in Denver. Nancy is here from LA. Welcome, Nancy. Bill Bradford is here. He's in Pittsburgh tonight. My sister, Eileen Sohn, is here.
There we go. We just spoke about her. There you go.
Hi, sister. I was just telling Diane that you're going to be on the show in June, sister. Are you ready? Are you ready for that moment? Yes. Ashok is here. He says he and his guitar are striking a chord.
Oh, perfect. I'm learning how to play the piano, so we'll have to get together and maybe have a band, a little jam session.
Yeah, I think we need to have a cancer show band.
Yeah.
That could be a new thing, right? And everybody's talking to each other. Mark is here. Mark's a previous guest also. Welcome, Mark. Brian says, of course, I am more than happy to donate his time and social media channels. Thank you, Brian. Stefan says he's always used social media for social good. Passion and purpose for and in life is what it's all about. Mic drop. Yes, Stefan. Thank you. So many people here. Legia is here from Costa Rica. Hello, Legia. Welcome.
Hi, Legia. I know that she's been on many of, like, she attends many of your shows. I know I've seen that name. Yeah.
Almost every week she's here. So appreciate so many of you show up week after week. Melody is here. Hello, Melody.
So can I interrupt for a minute there, Tim?
No.
I see a Brian Hungria from Dallas, Texas, and I want to do a little bit of shout out because him and I worked together. Oh my God, it's great to see you, Diane. I was going to say we worked together. I don't even know how many years ago it was, and we had an instant friendship. And thank you so much, Brian, for being here and supporting me. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. And Kenny D is here. He says, good evening from Sugarland, Texas.
Woo-hoo, Sugarland.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, everyone. All of you. I'm sorry if I missed any of you. There are many of you, and we appreciate all of you being here, showing up. We truly, truly appreciate all of you.
Watch me try to keep my composure. As I said to Tim, I'm going to cry. I know I'm going to cry. I'm not going to cry. I'm going to laugh and we're going to have fun.
We are going to have fun. And I told Diane, well, she is prepared with her tissues, and I have Puffs, the not yet sponsor of the show here. So we're ready.
All right.
Yeah. So Diane, you're currently going through hormonal therapy, but you're considered clear for.
I am.
Cancer
I am considered clear of breast cancer, invasive lobular. So I don't know. I have to admit, I grew up with cancer in my life because of my parents, because of my mother, because of my family history, and yet I did not realize how many different breast cancer types there are. So I had invasive lobular, which means usually when you have breast cancer, at least as women, we're kind of all taught to check ourselves, and you go for mammograms and you look for that P that eventually turns into maybe a little nut, and then it kind of goes into a golf ball if you're not paying attention. And mine did not do that. Invasive lobular means the cancer cells actually line up beside each other almost. They don't cluster. So it's very, very hard to detect that cancer. And so much so that I actually probably had the tumor for about 6 years before it was caught. And
oh, wow.
And it's even more interesting considering that I was part, when I was 28 years old, I was asked to be part of a study at a renowned breast cancer hospital here in Toronto called Sunnybrook. And so I was 28, and every 6 months I was kind of had to. I would go and I'd be physically checked by a doctor, and then I would have mammograms and I would have MRIs and I would have ultrasounds, and we'd be checking every little thing because of my family history. And even though I was doing that, every
Yeah.
6 months, doctors who were trained, all the tools that were to check, they still did not pick up my particular cancer. And it was
Wow. Yeah.
6 centimeters, which then all of a sudden forces you into a stage 2, and it makes it a very different story. So, yeah, I mean that it's kind of surprising how does that happen? I don't know. I have to say, and I know that I kind of wanted to introduce first, what was my family history.
Yeah, we definitely want to get into your story, but let's back up a little bit and
Yeah, you
let's
know me,
talk
Tim.
about your
Right in there.
yeah, that's all good. But
My
let's back up
family
a
would
little
say
bit.
it's all about her. It's all about her. So
Well, I love your energy. Uh, but talk a little bit in terms of your parents' journeys and what did that look like?
so
And also, before we go there, just congratulations on being cleared of cancer.
thank
That's
you. Thank you so much.
amazing.
Thank you. Um, so my father, I'll start kind of on my father's side.
Yeah.
My father, growing up, my maternal grandmother had breast cancer. She was, I think, in her 50s when she had it. And I don't want to be dismissive, but there's
Yeah.
environmental cancers that you get when you're a little bit older. You get a cancer, you have a lumpectomy, you get some radiation, or you have a mastectomy, and it's pretty much cleared.
Okay.
So my paternal grandmother had that breast cancer and didn't scare me. I barely really kind of knew that was happening. But on my mother's side, it was a very different story. My grandmother, my maternal grandmother, she had breast cancer and passed away at the age of 36. My maternal aunt, being my mother's older sister, ended up with breast cancer, passed away when she was, I believe, about 40. Then my mother ended up with breast cancer. She passed away when she was 42. And then the first cousin who hit 40, so my aunt's daughter, she ended up with breast cancer. And she's still a survivor. So yay, Kathy Wright. She is still a
Yeah.
survivor. And went through the whole gamut. And back then they didn't do any genetic testing. So then
Yeah.
it comes along me. Now I come from a family of 4 girls. I'm the third in line. And thankfully, I'm the only one who has actually ended up with breast cancer. Everybody else has been clear to this point. They didn't, as I said, they didn't do genetic testing back then. My cousin did, in fact, have some genetic testing done, and she came back with some people call it BRCA1, some people call it
Mhm.
BRCA1, whatever you want to call it. She was positive to that. So clearly, there was a genetic disposition in my family on my mother's side for breast cancer. So that was my mother's side, and then we bring it down, and both my parents passed away of cancer. And then here I am, woohoo, a cancer survivor. I always said there's a good chance I'm going to get it, but it's not going to take me out. And I still believe that.
First of all, gifting you lots of hearts because that is, I mean, that's a
There's a
lot of
lot of cancer in
people.
that
That's a lot of
story.
cancer. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
lot.
I can
Um,
honestly say I don't know what it's like to have a life without cancer touching you. And sometimes I will meet people now who, I'm in my 50s, that are in their 50s, and they're just crossing that bridge now. They've just met somebody now who's had cancer close to them, or they've just lost somebody now who's had, who's a parent or something that has had cancer. And they find that very difficult. So I'm actually going to try to find a silver lining in all this. And the
yeah.
silver lining about my history is I I'm kind of not taken back by it. Some people are so devastated by it. It's been every day of my life. I knew I never met my grandmother. I knew why. And my mother was 9 when she lost her mother. I was 16
Wow.
when I lost my mother. So cancer's always been a part of it. I hate to say normalized in my life, but it has been a little bit normalized in my life.
Yeah, yeah. Nancy has a question. She says, knowing the strong family history of cancer, did you live sort of waiting for it, feeling it was inevitable?
Yep. I don't want to say I was obsessed by it, but
Yeah.
I do remember many times saying, I'm going to get it. And in my mind, I always thought it would be, I'd have a little lump, have a little lumpectomy, maybe some radiation, and off I go, is in my mind what was supposed to happen. Now, that's far from what ended up happening. I kind of ended up the complete gamut the other way. But I also did being part of this study at Sunnybrook that I was speaking about earlier. I did actually have genetic testing at that time for both the BRC1 and the BRC2. And I guess the first time I had genetic testing, and I say the first time because, believe it or not, they keep finding things. They keep following the DNA roll around, and they can tell when has it mutated. So they always can actually find more and more genes that have mutated to cause different cancers. The first time I must have been around 30. And at that time, when you had genetic testing for something like this, you had to go and actually see a psychologist, and you had to sit down with them, and they would ask you, why do you want to know? And what are you going to do with this information? And at that time, I thought for sure I was going to test positive, and I did it. I tested negative to both of them. And in fact, now, well, as of, I think, 3 years ago, they had 19 genes. So the BRC1 and BRC2, and then a whole bunch of other ones that cause different types of cancers. So when a gene is mutated and the mutation causes a cancer, there's usually a primary cancer it's going to cause, and then there's secondary cancers. So because of my situation, my doctor said, we want to test you for all of the genes to see if you have any of them, because sometimes what is going to be the primary cancer, maybe, kidney or, colon cancer, maybe a secondary cancer is it could cause breast cancer. I've tested negative for everything. And yet here I am, big ass cancer tumor. And I still went through the whole thing. So, honestly, I don't know what to say to people. I've been a big advocate. I've done a lot of fundraising. I've done events, and I've spoken about it before I had cancer. And I was always about early detection and make sure you're checking and go to your doctor. And then what do I say when I've been seeing a doctor every 6 months, and yet for 6 years there was just cancer silently growing inside of me in the area that we were checking. It's not like it was anywhere else. It was in my breast, and that's what we were checking. For 20 years, I had been part of that study and still ended up with cancer.
Right. Yeah, thanks for sharing all of that. And how do you keep, you seem to have a good sense of humor or at least laughter. How do you, I mean, this is a lot to go through. How do you have that? How do you, first of all, do you have a positive mindset, and how do you keep a sense of humor or laughter if you do have one?
So have a huge positive mindset. I think you have to. Anybody who's going to go in, and it doesn't matter what cancer, it doesn't matter, we all know there's some cancers that have a higher rate of survival. There's other cancers that they haven't made a lot of advancements, but no matter which cancer, you have to go in with that positive attitude, because you were going to fight a war. And the best thing is to be positive. Your mindset is so important. I think I have, I didn't know, I knew my mother, obviously. As I said, she passed away when I was 16. My mother had an amazing mindset, and she was very funny. And I remember when she passed away at the funeral, my sisters, so as I said, there was 4 girls, and then my father, we were in the limo that's following behind the hearse. And we were telling stories about my mother, silly things she had done. And we were breaking up laughing, like just killing ourselves laughing. And the limo driver, when we got, to the church, the limo driver got out and he said, there's a lot of families that I see that are just distraught in this situation. I don't know you and I don't know your family, but you could not have just paid your mother more respect by really enjoying who she was and enjoying that time. So I think I got that from her.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I just want to show a few of the comments before
Yeah,
we go to
please
some more
do.
questions. Christine is sharing hearts. Nancy is sharing heart eyes. Stefan is saying love, love, love for Diane and fam. Dansby, who I met in San Diego also, he said, hey, it's Dansby, great content. Thanks for being here, Dansby.
Yeah.
Maria says, hi all.
Hi, Maria.
Nancy says, Dansby, so great seeing you. Nancy was in San Diego also. Christina says, Diane is one of the most positive people I've ever met in all aspects of life.
Thank you, Christine.
And Melody says, absolutely, Diane, our mindset does affect our body.
Hands down. Hands down.
So Diane, how did your parents' individual deaths impact you? And also, how did their deaths impact how you viewed your own health?
So, as I said, my mother was sick from the time I was 13 and found that very difficult. Obviously, being a girl, being 13, it's hard enough. I had a sister who was 7 years younger than I was. And so my mother couldn't take care of her a lot. And so my sisters and I kind of stepped in and did a lot of things. I mean, I had a mother who didn't see me graduate high school, who didn't see me go to college. She didn't see me get married. And mostly she did not see me have my 2 wonderful children. They say when a daughter loses a father, they still have their mother. When a daughter loses a mother, they tend to lose both. And unfortunately, in our situation, that was true. And I think that was more true back then when roles were more traditional. The father would go out working, the mother was home. So it was a big change for a father. My father had 4 girls. Really, if he could have made us all 4 boys, he would have been very happy. He didn't know what to do with us when my mother was alive. Never mind, actually, now she's gone. The oldest sister, she was married and she had a child of her own, so she was gone. So, my mother passes away and my father says, okay, he decides he's moving out west, said, you can come or you can stay. And at that point, I had been accepted into college. I was ready to move on with my life. I said I was going to stay. So the reality is, in my situation, that old saying was very true. I lost my mother and I lost my father when my mother passed away. So that's kind of how it impacted me. The saddest part was, for many years, I was upset with my father and angry how everything had ended up happening, how he left, how, here I'm thinking, you don't just leave a 17-year-old, 16-year-old at home. And when my father, so he ended up with larynx cancer. And I guess he was diagnosed or first got it maybe 2006, 2007. I didn't have much of a relationship with him until things were bad. And then I really didn't find my father again until 2011, when it was his final days and we finally talked about things. And so for me, cancer took all of that away. It took my mother away and it took my father away. And anyway, that's where we are. The good thing is I did get to make peace with my father. The funny thing is, I can't remember my mother's voice. I can remember how sometimes her hands smelled, which is very funny that I say that, because I remember her chopping up onions. And if you've cooked with onions a lot, your hands will smell. So I can sometimes remember that. But my father was an adult. I was an adult. I had an adult relationship with my father. And so I would say that I miss my father. I miss my adult father. I never had an adult relationship with my mother. And I'm realizing that now as my kids are getting older, I don't have an example. You know, I have a daughter. Mothers and daughters, there is definitely a weird relationship there. I'm not exactly sure why it gets to be so the way it is, intense. But all of a sudden, I realized I don't know how to navigate this because I never experienced it. I really never experienced it. So my daughter's very patient with me. That's all I'll say.
Well, that's good. That's good. She's patient with you.
Mhm.
Wow. Wow. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing all of that. Yeah. And then how did their deaths impact how you view your own health
Oh,
as
my
well?
own health. That's right. You asked that
Yeah.
question. Um, I'm so my father had a stoma, you know, where he would talk like that. And believe it or not, I was a smoker for a little while, and people would say, "How could you smoke when you have your mother?" My mother never smoked a day in her life. My grandmother never smoked. So your mind gives you permission to see things the way that you were. So I would smoke, and then when my father passed away, and he spoke with that stoma, I buried him, and then never ever had another cigarette after that. So I think that for my own health, I'm very much aware, more of my mental state than I am of everything else. Mind you, with that said, I'm a bit of a fanatic about putting plastic in the microwave. Please, people, if you get takeout food, do not put those plastic containers in the microwave. If it says on the container, do not put in the microwave, do not put it in the microwave. I don't know why. That's a big thing for me.
Wait, so what was the connection between that and what we're
It's
talking
about
about?
my own health. I'm crazy
Oh,
about,
that's
yeah,
okay.
that's the connection.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did everybody hear that? Everybody got that?
Yeah. No putting takeout plastic containers in the microwave. Just don't do it.
Don't forget that.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, Tim, is it's being positive. It's, you know
Yeah.
what? I'm very, very fortunate. I have the parents that I had. And I will still say I have because they're still in my heart. But being positive, when I went through what I went through, I once had a dream, and we were all in a park, and I was sitting by this tree with my mother and father. And so I had been diagnosed already. I had had my surgery, but I hadn't started chemotherapy yet. And I looked over and I saw all my friends and family over in a group in this other area of the park. And I remember saying to my parents, "Why are they all over there and we're here?" And I woke up from that dream and was just sweating. And I thought, no way. I don't know what that dream was supposed to tell me, but you guys can be by this tree. I'm going where everybody else is. You are not taking me with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So let's switch a bit to when you were diagnosed,
Mm.
and let's go back to when you were diagnosed and how you found out that you were diagnosed, and um let's talk a little bit about your journey and how you're doing currently, kind of leading up to that.
Okay. Um, so as I said, I was part of this study for a long time, and
Yeah.
I was 48. The doctor who would check on me, Dr. Langcoffin, I'm just going to give her a shout out because none of the tools caught it and she caught it. She had said, "Okay, you're 48. This is usually now the age where we would release you into the care of your family doctor because genetic breast cancer usually would present itself much earlier. You know, as my grandmother was 36, and you know, in their 30s, usually genetic will present itself earlier. And I was already 48. So they said, we think you're probably good." And as she was checking around the breast, she said, oh, I feel a little something here. Now, when you're part of a study, you have to understand they check everything. So you're so used to, oh, we have to check this. Oh, we have to check that. And I have to admit, for every single time before that, I used to be, every time they found something, like just crawl the walls. I would make everybody crazy because I was panicking about what was going on. And oh my God, I have cancer. Oh my God, it's this.
Yeah.
This one time she said, oh, let's check this. It's a little something. I'm like, okay. And I was almost blasé about it. It was so weird. So they said, let's do an ultrasound and then a micro mammogram where they actually have it. It sits, it's a little bit higher and it's like a microscope. It's a little bit more intense. So I did those two. And when I was for the ultrasound, I always say, if they do an ultrasound for you and then they say, okay, you can go, we'll call you, everything's fine, you're good to go. Or sometimes they'll say, we're going to go take a look at it. They come back and say, okay, you're fine, you can go. Whenever they come back and there's another person in the room checking something out, it means they're worried about something. And that's exactly what happened. They went, they checked somebody else came in, and then a third person came in and they said, okay, we are seeing something. We think we need to do a needle biopsy. Again, Tim, I cannot tell you how much I was not worried. Every other time I was all freaked out. This time, completely not worried about it. They did the needle biopsy. They said, okay, it'll take about 2 weeks. They phoned me, asked me to come in and get the results. My sister, God love my sister. I have one sister. We're only 16 months apart, and we're very, very close. She was also part of this study. She said, do you want me to go with you for these results? And I was like, no, I'm fine. It's nothing. We've done this so many times. Like, it's all good. And on that day in the morning, I lived in a condo and I had stairs. There was 2 floors, and I was walking down the stairs, and no word of a lie, I literally buckled. I went down, and my knees just kind of collapsed. My legs just went down, and all of a sudden it was this, you have cancer. Like it was crazy how very, oh my God, this is it. This is going to be the time they're going to tell me I have cancer. Luckily, I quickly called my sister, said, okay, is the offer to come still there? She said yes, because we all get told, make sure you have somebody in the room to hear all the things that you're not going to hear because you're going to be panicked about, say, being told you have cancer. And so I quickly called her. She said, yeah, we were there. We went up. I said to her, I'm going to go in. If she tells me, if the doctor tells me it's something, I'll come right back out and get you. And if I come right back out, then we know it's good and I'm all clear. And I went in. The doctor, she looked at me and I just went, I know, I know. And so she took the time and she explained to me what is invasive lobular. And that's how I knew it was a line and what it was doing. And I would consider to be estrogen positive and HER negative, which are good things, I guess, if you're talking about cancer. She went through the whole thing. And at that time I said to her, no, stop. I need to go get my sister because I need someone to hear everything you're saying. And she said, no, Diane, I'm going to tell you first. And then after I tell you, you're going to go get your sister and I'm going to tell you all over again. And I so appreciated that she took the time to do that, because I think what she was doing was making sure my first was about questions just about me. It was just about me and allowing me to settle in. And then she probably knew I needed that second time to hear it again. So I went outside to the waiting room to get my sister. And I guess it wasn't that long, because my sister's face, when she saw me, she just kind of lit up and she was like, okay, let's go. And I just shook my head no. I'll never forget my sister's face right then, where she realized, oh shit. Oh shit. And so she came in with me and she sat there and she cried. She cried through the whole time the doctor was explaining it. And at the end, the doctor talked about having a great joke. The doctor said, Diane, I think you need to go and get yourself a bottle of wine for tonight and get your sister home and make sure she's okay. And support your sister, because she got some really bad news. So, and then from there, we thought it was going to be just a lumpectomy and radiation, which I had always said, remember earlier, oh, it's going to be a lumpectomy.
Yeah.
They found one spot. Luckily, I had a general surgeon who really, because of invasive lobular, wanted to be very sure about what we had. So I had to have an MRI. I had to have an MRI needle biopsy, which hurts like the dickens if anyone's ever had one. And talk about a weird position when you do an MRI on your breast, as it is. You go in feet first, flat down, and they pull your boobs through two holes like they're milking a cow. This, so I go in and they're doing this biopsy, pulling my boobs through this thing and the shooting needles into anything that might light up. And from that, they found that I actually had some spots on the outer edge as well as on the inner edge. So they had then changed my lumpectomy to a mastectomy. Then we turned into both a bilateral mastectomy. From the pathology, they found out it was one very large tumor going across the left breast.
Okay.
And my little lumpectomy and radiation turned into full on 5 courses of chemo, 25 courses of radiation, the bilateral mastectomy, and I'm still on hormone therapy. So, so that's where I'm at. And there's so many things they don't tell you. There's so many things. I thought I knew everything about this stuff.
Yeah.
I did not know when I went for chemo, because they have different cocktails for different things.
Yeah.
I did not know the first cocktail they gave me. So there was 2 medications I had to have. The one medication is I had to literally put my fingers in ice, and my toenails they wrapped around in ice because they were trying to prevent me from losing my nails, because the chemo will kill. That's why you lose your hair. So that's why some hospitals, they actually put, they'll have that ice pack. People will try to put that ice pack on their head to try to prevent from losing their hair. My hospital actually is not a big fan of that. And they said, if you want it, you have to bring in the equipment. We will set it up, but we do not give it. And they don't, specifically because brain tumors is a secondary site for breast cancer. And so they did not want to take a chance and prevent any of the chemo getting up there. But nobody told me I was sticking my hands in ice. Nobody told me, and I've never ever said this in public, and I'm going to say it for the first time. Nobody told me they were going to cut off my nipples. Where did that happen? I thought you kind of take things out, but I mean, everything's gone. So there's so many things that you don't know. And loved the losing of the hair. That was very, very difficult. And funny enough, I had a friend shave my head. So I cut my hair short before my first chemo, because I used to have very long hair. And I had read that it's easier if you cut your hair short before you lose it. It just makes it a little bit not as drastic. And so I had done that. And actually, it's funny because Christine Arthur, who popped up on our chat today showing some support, I was at her place and I had slept over and I hadn't really lost any hair. And in the morning, I woke up and I had hair all over my pillow. And it had just started coming out in clumps. And so I quickly put a scarf on. I did have a scarf with me. And I went to another friend of mine and asked him to shave my head. He shaved my head and my hair, and we were outside and my hair all fell on the ground. And to this day, that spot where all that hair fell is still dead. Like there's still spots on the grass that's weirdly still dead. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is chemo's a great insect repellent. Believe it or not, when I was on chemo for 5 years after, I had no bugs bugging me. They now bug me because I'm going into my 6 years. And last summer was the first time. A mosquito does not bug you when you're on chemo. So again, let's look at the silver lining, people. Let's look at the silver lining.
Yeah, seriously.
Who cares what it's doing to your inside? It's no mosquitoes, no cancer.
There you go. What do you think? Should we go to some comments?
Sure.
All right. Ellen says, my sister did the same thing with her hair and had her daughter cut it, a very tender moment. Christine says she remembers. Ellen says, nothing beats sister love. Nancy says she loves that you're radiating real and sharing your heart with us, Diane. So thank you. Nancy says, actually, we're going to talk about that in a minute, Nancy. Hold on a second. Ellen says, fun fact, we all have microplastics in our system, so no reason to increase the load. Nancy says, no takeout plastic containers in the microwave. Got it.
Right.
And you and your daughter are learning and growing together.
Yeah, we
So
are.
that's
We are.
cool. Cool. So thank you all for showing up tonight for
thank you.
Diane. We really appreciate you. We are here on Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer with Dianne Jackson. We really appreciate her being here tonight. So Diane, how has having cancer impacted not only your life, but your relationships?
So 2 people in particular, I know it changed it drastically to a negative. And I don't blame some people. Some people just don't know what to say, do not know what to do, and they don't know what you're feeling. So it's not just about them. It's also about us and how we're feeling and how people perceive us. And all of a sudden we perceive ourselves as being a little different. So, obviously I struggle with my own self-confidence sometimes in who, I have fake boobs, I've gained weight and lost my hair, like my hair's thinning again because of the hormone things. And, I'm realizing I will never be the pre-cancer person. I'm just a new person, but I'll never be the pre. And in relationships, both of what their preconceived notions are coming in and what you're feeling, it can sometimes hurt. It can sometimes definitely hurt that relationship. So I feel in a way it impacted 2 relationships quite a bit. And then there's other people where it brought it closer. I've had some relationships. I have one great girlfriend who, before, we saw each other whenever we did. And when I went through this, every single day, Mary Santanato would call me or she would send me a message every single day. And the one time that my sister was not able to come to my chemo, she was the first one right there. And those are the people that you realize who are really important in your life. And even if people don't know what to say, I think that's okay. I'd rather have somebody just say, I don't know what to say. And then just kind of move on. But I would say that's how things have impacted. Now, with that said, I've noticed lately when I was actually going through, had the mastectomy, had the chemo, was having the radiation, I was pretty matter of fact about it. That's just my personality. I'm pretty matter of fact. This is it. I'm going through this. The doctor says do this. You advocate for what you want to do, but you just do it. I'm now 5 years later, still doing hormonal therapy. And there are times now that I'm realizing mentally, I might be processing things that maybe I didn't process before. And, and that's, one thing that I loved about your show is I realized, I've told you before, I've watched there was one time I was watching someone who was very similar and I had to click off because it was very emotional. And sometimes I think that there's some emotion, there's some fear maybe that just sits under my edge. I'm a soldier. I go in, I fight it. And that's what I did through all of it. Maybe some of it's catching up with me as I get a little bit older and I'm realizing, and that's what I love about this show is you can talk about it because you do start to feel you don't want it to define who you are. And you don't want to keep saying, I don't want to keep saying to, oh, the chemo or, oh, the cancer. I feel like I shouldn't say anything about that anymore. But sometimes I think probably about it more now than I did when I went through it.
Yeah, I could understand that. And I mean, I could understand that as a cancer survivor. You don't want it to define you, but at the same time, it does connect you with other people, right?
It does.
You do relate in certain ways.
Yeah.
You go through similar experiences, and that that can be helpful sometimes, right?
It can. It's funny because I read a article from the Mayo Clinic, and I did it just recently because the one thing that has happened, you talked about relationships. I've had quite a few friends reach out to me and say, "Hey, I know someone who's going through what you're going through. Would you be willing to talk to them?" And I always will make myself available for that. I have no problem doing that. I've met people for lunch. I'll get on the phone. I'll do whatever. And I'll always say everybody's story is different. What I experienced, even the drugs that I'm on could be different than what your doctor does.
Right.
But the Mayo Clinic was saying, and I think it goes to explain how come I'm feeling what I feel now. They've done such a great job in finding cures, and actually, the survival rate of many cancers is pretty high. I mean, it's phenomenal what they've done. But what they're also starting to realize is, to get us to where we are, the damage they've done to other things. So chemo, for example, really does. So, for me, it caused heart issues. There are other things that end up happening. I'm on letrozole. There's pain in my legs all the time. I'm always making excuses for when I go to get up. I look like I'm sometimes 100 years old because I can hardly move. And I thought that was just me. I thought, you're getting old. You've put this weight on. And now I'm realizing it's not. That is truly a side effect of some of this medication. And so the doctors are now having to figure out a balance of, they're saving all these people from cancer, but now all these people have other issues. And how do they now take them through that next thing? Because we all know what happens. You have cancer, your treatment's over, and then it's kind of like, okay, bye-bye. But they've caused some other things to go along with it. And I think that's a true representation of the medical field, of so fixated on fixing one thing that sometimes other things end up being set aside.
Yeah, that's so true. And I've heard that from a lot of other cancer survivors, or as Melody likes to call us, cancer warriors.
Yes.
I love that. I love that term for sure.
I like warrior over survivor too.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Ligia says, you are definitely awesome and I admire you a lot. Thanks for sharing your story with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ashok says, cancer has taken from your body, but you have an abundant soul, Diane.
Oh, thanks. It certainly has, but you're right. It hasn't taken anything that's important, I guess.
Jason says, paging awkwardness. I was working on a project and forgot about showing up till now. Well, thank you for showing up now, Jason. Oh my gosh. Ellen says, there is no timeline to process things. Issues will come up when you are ready to deal with them, and you should welcome that as part of the healing journey. Yeah. So true. So true.
It's funny because when I was going through it, I'm going to be perfectly honest, if anybody said the word journey to me, I just cringed. I never, ever referred to this as a journey. Now, part of it is I'm in the travel industry. A journey to me, I'm packing stuff in a suitcase. I'm off having a lot of fun. And that did not happen on this trip. I can tell you that. So I never related to the word journey until recently. That I have. And maybe it's because maybe I do feel like I am coming to the end. Not the end, but I am coming to where I'm in a good place with it again, and I'm starting to deal with some of the issues again.
Yeah. Bob Blanchard, sorry to cover us over. Bob says, so cool to see how positive you are, Diane. I'm still a noob at this, as I was just diagnosed 9 months ago. I was actually told via phone call while at work. That kind of sucked. It's been a rough road, as people I thought were in my corner were quite the opposite, but you definitely find out who the real people in your life are. I've now found great friendships in the cancer world. We warriors tend to bond.
Oh, Bob, I'm so glad to hear that. And you're right. Most of the time, it's not that they're not in your corner. It's they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to deal with it.
So true. And look who's here. Look who's here. Look, it's Peter Clark. Thanks for being here, Peter. Thank you for connecting us. Dimitri is here from Guatemala. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thanks for joining.
Clint says, Diane is a friend of mine who is helping me in my new journey.
Oh
She
my
has been a
God,
great help to me.
Clint, oh God, sorry.
It's okay.
Clint is a very good friend, and he was there when my mother was sick, and I've known him since grade 7,
Oh my
and he
gosh.
recently was diagnosed with. Well, Clint, since I'm assuming since you wrote it there, I'm allowed to say something. He was recently diagnosed with tonsil cancer. He never had his tonsils out, and most people think, oh, well, then just take those tonsils out, and then it's probably not that easy. And he reached out to me and said, hey, do you have a few minutes? And we just started talking, and he told me what was going on, and so he keeps me up to date, and I know he is going to beat this, and he is just at the beginning of his battle.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for showing up and sending you lots of prayers and love for sure. Yeah, thank you for showing up. So Diane, you have 2 children. Do you ever worry that they'll get cancer? And have your mom and your experiences affected how they view cancer and cancer screenings?
So I told you before, Tim, I told my kids that I would pay, they had to pay for university, and I would pay for their therapy after having me as their mother. So of course I worry about what they're going to end up being with. Unfortunately, my kid's situation is even more impacted by cancer, because of course all of my 5 degrees to cancer goes down to my children. That's my side as their mother, and their father also has cancer. So their paternal grandmother had breast cancer. Luckily, she just, she needed to have a lumpectomy. She needed to have radiation. She was fine. She never had any complications afterwards. But my kids also both recently lost 2 uncles on their father's side, one from lung cancer and one from esophagus cancer. So do I worry about my kids? I absolutely do. I know I've had the conversation with my daughter more so around the breast cancer, because I know how I felt growing up. And my daughter had this amazing positive attitude. She said, no, I don't think about it a lot. I don't worry about it a lot. And I feel if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And I realized I've actually never said to my son, and Cody, if you're watching right now, I'm sorry I'm saying it now. I'm not sure if he's scared about it. And I think I need to have that conversation with him to see if he's nervous about it. The good thing is both my kids know that genetically speaking, all of the identified genes, because there's always genes they haven't identified yet, right? They do think that my breast cancer probably was a genetic one, but they just haven't identified it yet. But my kids know that all the ones that have been identified, they cannot get from me, because I've already been tested and I'm negative for all those, so I couldn't have passed them on. So that's the good news. And then on their father's side, their one uncle was a smoker, and there's some environmental reasons why they ended up having cancer. So even though it's been a big part of their life, it might give them some comfort to know, as far as the genetic testing, that they're in a bit more of a better place. In fact, most insurance companies would prefer them because they know that they don't have any of those genetic mutated genes coming their way.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing that. Alexi Man says, Dianne Jackson, great to see you and to hear you laugh. You are so strong.
Hi, Alexi. Thank you.
A few people you know tonight.
Yeah. And some people, the best part is a lot of these people I haven't seen in years. Like I haven't seen them in a long time. So thank you so much, everyone, for showing up.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, it's about 9 o'clock. We have a few more questions. Do you have a few more minutes, Diane? Or
I do, but it's up to you. It's your show, so I'll
we,
try not to like ramble on like I've been doing so far.
no, you're good. We could go a little longer as long as you're good. I just want to make sure I
I'm
respect your
good.
time. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So Diane, you've learned along the way how to care for yourself physically, mentally, and
Mhm.
emotionally during your, I'm going to say the J word, cancer journey. Uh, what have you learned along the way that has helped you in terms of these different aspects?
So, one friend who is also a breast cancer survivor, Annie Mullins, told me, have no expectations of anybody because you
Mm,
don't know how they deal with it. So I definitely learned that, and that is very true. It makes things much easier if you don't expect anything as you're going through this. They're going through something too. So I learned that the positive attitude, um, I've learned. I also have a very candor and kind of when it's going to be time to say I've lost that battle or anybody, I'm okay with that. You know, I that maybe sounds morbid,
yeah.
but I'm going to weigh the pros and cons and kind of be okay with that. So um, I'm not. I'm. I eat healthy. I get a lot of exercise. I will tell anybody if you are going through chemotherapy, as much as you do not want to get out and start walking, drink lots of water and get out and start walking because it rushes through your system so much faster and you feel so much better. It is true. A body at rest stays at rest. A body in motion will stay in motion. You know, apply those sciences. I would say that that is very, very true. So I've learned that as well. I've learned to kind of laugh at a lot of things. The nurses at the chemo, when we used to go for chemo, they used to laugh at my sister and I and say, "Oh my God, we love it when you guys come. You're so much fun." I felt like we were like a tag team of comedians or something at the, you know, at the chemo lounge. We would kind of do a routine and have a good time. So have a sense of humor if you can.
Yeah.
And, but it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be upset. It's
Yeah.
okay to say, why me? Um, just try, you know, once you do it, once you're there, have the intention to move forward and to be positive if you can afterwards. And I know it's not always easy.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely not always easy.
Hmm.
Um, and Bernadine is here. She says, Diane, you are such an inspiration. Thank you for sharing your heartfelt story with us.
Oh, thanks, Bernadine.
So, Diane, you've really been an advocate for yourself, and you've told
Hmm.
us before that it's all about the math. What do you mean by this?
Yeah, I'm sure everyone talks about cancer and the math.
Yes,
Um,
everyone.
because when they give you your treatment plan, they will tell you the percentage and the probabilities of it coming back. So, for example, I guess a good example is my father. Um, he had radiation, and you know he had his voice box removed. He's a very very strong man, and so the cancer ended up coming back, and they
Mm,
wanted to go in and remove the tumor, you know, where it was coming at his neck. And basically, in short, they were going to decapitate him, take the tumor out, and kind of sew everything back up again. That's in a crude way what was going to end up happening. And my father was all on board. Okay, kind of let's go, let's do it. My father wasn't exactly happy with the quality of his life as it was.
mm,
And so I kept saying, okay, if we do this, what is the percentage of success? Like, what are the numbers that are going to take us um, to the next step? Where are we going to end up? And those numbers were so low. Like the chances
mm,
of him having any kind of quality of life after were pretty low. And so him and I remember him, what we were walking around his property. He lived out in BC, had this great property, and we were walking around and and I remember telling him, you know, I think it was like less than 12% or something. was going to be a real good positive influence. Now, some people say, even if it's one, I'm going to go for the gusto and I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I don't. I look at the math and I say, this doesn't make sense to me. I'm not going to do this. And my father didn't do it, and so he ended up having to have a feeding tube in very quickly. And when we went to the hospital to have that done, one of the nurses who knew him and knew what was being proposed, the surgery, turned around and said to him afterwards, "I'm glad you did not do that, because we have never seen anybody leave the hospital after they have that surgery." So
Oh, wow.
what is that what he would have wanted? And then even for me right now, I started off on tamoxifen, and that's when I gained the 30 pounds. And I ended up getting some thickening of my uterus, which is a sign of, by the way, almost everything they give you to cure cancer will cause cancer someplace else, right? And so that's what was ending up happening. So they wanted to switch me off of that, and they put me on letrozole, and then they wanted me to do it for 10 years. And so I negotiated by the math and said, okay, what if I did it for only 5 years? And they said, okay, it's 87% that there'll be no reoccurrence. Okay, what if I did for 6 years? Okay, now I'm up to 91. And what if I did it for, and I got up to where we were at 7 years, and I'm pretty much at like 98.1% chance there will not be a reoccurrence. So I said, okay, forget the 10 years. I'm taking the 7 years, because there's also a quality of life that goes along with that. So look at the math sometimes. Don't just say, I'm going to do this. Understand, what does it actually mean? Because some doctors,
Right.
they're there to do whatever they can to save that life, sometimes
Yeah.
at the sacrifice of a quality of life. And everybody has to decide what quality of life are they going to be happy with.
Yeah, that's so true. And that's something we talk a lot about on this show
Mhm.
about, is
Mhm.
that idea of self-advocacy and, doing what's right for you, and doing your research, and that whole idea, right? Everybody has to do what's right for themselves, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Ashok says cancer calculus.
Yeah. The funny part is, I don't like math. I think math should go solve its own problems, if you know what I mean.
Yes, but Bob Blanchard was a math major, so he agrees with you.
It does help when you have something else to think about, and you're not just thinking about the emotional side, when you can actually look at something that's concrete, that's science. I think we're all probably sick of hearing, follow the science. Follow the science sometimes.
Right, definitely, definitely. All right, well, I think we'll wrap up the conversation here, Diane. Thank you so much for
Oh,
sharing
thank
your
you so much, Tim.
story, your perspectives. I really appreciate it.
I cannot tell you thank you so much for letting me share this story, and for all, I can see all the comments, and it's probably what kept me. I thought for sure I was going to be crying through this whole thing, but all those comments really did make a difference. So thank you.
Good, good. Okay, I'm going to put you back in the green room. If you can wait a few minutes, just
Sure. Yep.
that's awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for showing up for Dianne Jackson tonight. I really, really appreciate it, as I'm sure she does. Next week's guest is going to be Owen Hemsath, aka Owen Video. He is using metabolic therapy, and he has a really interesting cancer story. So, really looking forward to hearing his story next week. Ashok says, amazing show. Thank you so much, Ashok. If you would like to be a guest on Showing Up Perspective on Cancer, or if you would like to sponsor the show, you could direct message me on LinkedIn or really any social media platform. Would love to have a conversation with you. Or if you're thinking maybe I want to share my story or my connection on cancer, but I'm not really sure. We could always have a conversation, and maybe you're not ready quite yet, but maybe you will be down the road. I'd be happy to have that conversation as well. But thank you so much, everyone, for showing up tonight. So many of you show up every week to support our guests and to support each other. I just so appreciate you all for showing up every week. So I'm going to take us out just like I brought us in. Maybe you'll want to do a little dancing as I put this video on. See y'all next week.